So, hello everybody, this is David Cuartires, co-founder of the Arduino platform. I'm here today with the helper group from the Discord server that we have set up together with the Arduino community to discuss about Arduino and help people with their projects. So, first of all, I would like everybody to introduce themselves, if you guys don't mind. Say hello somehow.
Hello, my name is Caesar. I am the administrator on the Arduino community Discord.
Guys, don't be shy. We have like 6 people, or 5 besides Caesar, connected, but I'm not sure if everybody wants to use their microphone today.
Okay.
I'm Zygon and I'm a helper at the Arduino server.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, I'm WP back and I'm also a helper on the Arduino server.
Hello. And people, don't be shy. I mean, it's the first time we actually talk to one another and we are recording this or streaming this live, so it's kind of interesting. Yeah, if you don't want to use the mic, it's perfectly fine. I mean, the chat is showing live as well in the streaming, so if whatever you guys type, if you want to air your opinions in written form, it's perfectly fine. I can read them aloud, or Cesar can read them aloud, so it's great.
Yep, I will.
Yeah, so can you just tell us where you're all coming from? I mean, I'm from Spain, but I live in Sweden, which is a very complicated story to tell. I will reserve it for a different day, actually. So,
I am from Sweden, actually.
no way.
Yeah,
And are you from Sweden, living in Sweden as well?
yeah, that's
Oh,
true.
okay, where are you at? So we should meet at some point.
Gothenburg.
Ah, Gothenburg, yeah, nice place.
Yeah.
I'm coming from the east coast of the United States.
Okay, we had our first American there.
I'm from Vancouver.
Ooh,
Canada.
that's great. So
Access Snipers from Toronto.
we have 2 Canadians. That's pretty cool. 2 Swedes. This is very unbalanced. Yeah, same. You know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm from the US, Oregon.
Okay, you're also from the US. Okay, it's cool. So we have 2 Americans, 2 Canadians,
Two
and 2
Canadians.
Swedes. This sounds almost like a traditional Spanish joke, you know. But it's really cool. I mean, first of all, thank you everybody for actually joining today, and thank you for your help on the Arduino Discord channel. As you know, our goal is basically to have fun while helping other people with Arduino issues, and to try to create a more inclusive community where people can discuss, people from all ages and all places, about any kind of projects that have to do with Arduino, but also with electronics and software in general. So it's really cool that you're helping out. But I think, so one of the goals was to get to know each other. So now we know who we are, where we're coming from, which is kind of fun. I should also say that if you guys happen to come to Sweden at any time, let's say Malmo, because Gothenburg is actually not close to Malmo at all, you're more than welcome to visit the Arduino office in Sweden at any time. Just drop me a line and I will be your host. And if I'm not there for whatever reason, I will make sure that somebody party at my place. You know, actually in Mexican, I have to say my partner is Mexican, and she always makes fun, but in Mexican Spanish, when you say fiesta en tu casa, it means actually party at my place, even though it says at your place, but it's at my place. So yeah, guys, so fiesta en tu casa. So whenever you want to, we actually have a guest room, so if you happen to come to Sweden and need a place to sleep, just let me know. It's again no problem. And if you're really noisy, you can stay in my shed. It's also okay. It's really cozy here. The heating works. We can put a mattress. Sunlight in the summertime, not in the winter. We're sorry, we don't book that for the winter time. They run out at the supermarket. Yeah, before we jump into the questions, I think we have a list of with some questions from people that posted here. Before jumping into those questions, I wonder if you guys happen to have any kind of questions about Arduino that you as helpers would like to get answered, and I will try to do my best.
All right. First question here comes from Hypogry, and he says, "When can we buy the prototype flexible Arduinos?"
Well, I have to say, we posted this video about the flexible Arduinos, which is from a company called NextFlex from California, and those. Well, you can. I don't think you can buy those. That was a let's say a proof of concept to show that they can manufacture things that actually work. And I think it's very interesting that Arduino has reached that level when they want to show that they can do things that work, they use an Arduino as an example. But there exist flexible Arduinos from before. If I'm not wrong, I think Seed Studio already 7 or 8 years ago were manufacturing the equivalent to Arduino Mini in Faxon cable, which is a flexible PCB kind of lookalike. And I'm not sure if they still have any of those, but it's possible to find them. And I know one of my colleagues at the university bought one. So you can always try to find them secondhand on eBay or something. If you find one, I also want one, so please.
All right, the next question comes from Michael 2. He says, "Can Arduino create an operating system for the Raspberry Pi so that you can upload code with the Arduino IDE and control its GPIO pins, just like Arduino, but it still uses Wi-Fi and Bluetooth features?"
Okay, that's a very interesting technical question. First of all, Arduino has already made an operating system. We made a OpenWRT operating system for the Arduino June. That worked very nice, in a very nice way, I would say. Technically, I think it was optimized so people would very easily connect stuff and try things out. But regardless, if you look at the Create project, it's actually possible to run on the Raspberry Pi and use the pins already. So already since, I would say, I cannot give you all of the details because it's complicated, but already since the Arduino Galileo that was developed by Intel, it was possible to have a Linux computer where you could access the GPIO pins from a Linux program or from actual Arduino code running as if the board was an Arduino board. So if you look at the latest developments on the Arduino Create site, you will find that some of these things are already possible. I'm telling you stuff without giving you like an in-depth answer. I mean, I should look for the link and but I could find that later.
The next question comes from Julian Fair 5. He said, "What Arduino's view off-shelf copies of their products?" Oh, what's Arduino's view on shelf copies of their products and of their products for space applications, i.e. satellites?
Okay, so when it comes to copies, I understand it's two different questions, right? One is about copies and the other one is for more like, let's say, high-tech applications like space, AI, and so on. Okay, so when it comes to copies, we have this way of defining copies. We separate clones from derivative boards, and when we design something to be open source, and in this case open source hardware, we make it because we of course want people to copy the hardware. We want people to copy the hardware if they improve it and they offer something back to the community. If you say, "Oh, I want to make a board with an on-off switch because I make a lot of projects with batteries," and you make your own board with an on-off switch and then you put the design up so that other people can use it as well. That's really cool. And that we will call a derivative board because it's offering an improvement on the existing boards. The definition of improvement is actually something very complex because some people think that improvement is something that is going to be good for everybody. For real, many times an improvement is just good for a very niche group of people. So you can't imagine how many requests we get per week on small improvements. And we basically tell people, look, Arduino is open source, make your own board. Then we go into the clones discussion. A clone is a board that tries to get users to think that they are working with an original Arduino board. And this can happen in two ways. One is by replicating the graphics of the board, like trying to make it really look like an Arduino board. And man, that's not cool, because that's basically
Copyright.
yeah, it's a copyright infringement. But at the same time, more than the copyright infringement, it's you're telling people. I mean, you go to places with people that have never really seen an original Arduino board, but they think they have one, and that's an issue because if the board gets broken for whatever reason, we get the complaint. So our support team and our forum and you guys at the Discord channel are suffering the consequences of that, and that's not really cool. At the same time, there is a second kind of cloning, which is when somebody makes a board where they don't replicate the silk print, but when the board connects to the computer, it identifies itself as an original Arduino board. And this happens with some companies that they basically don't want to pay for the USB bid and PID, vendor ID and product ID. And paying for a USB vendor ID is not expensive if you are selling thousands of boards. And that's what companies like, for example, Adafruit is doing. They purchase their own USB vendor ID, and when they make their own boards, they identify themselves as their own boards. And that's plain cool. But then there is plain not cool when you basically make your board and you make it identify itself like an original Arduino board when it's not. And there is other companies, which I will not mention here because I want to face legal issues, that do that. And there's very big companies in Europe and the States that are doing that. And we are fighting with our lawyers because that's a different kind of cloning. When a machine-to-machine identification is making the computer believe that it's an original Arduino board when it's not. So then again, the discussion comes, what happens if, for example, an association of students, and there are like 80 people, decide to go together and make their own board, and they make it work with the Arduino user ID, vendor ID. Obviously, Arduino is not going to do anything against these people. It makes absolutely no sense, because it goes against the basic purpose of creating educational material, which is one of the fundamental concepts behind Arduino. And there is an example, for example, the Santiago Makerspace, Santiago de Chile, created 100 Arduino lookalike boards, and they used the Arduino USB vendor ID and product ID, and they distributed to their members, but they made a round of boards and that's it. And obviously we're not going to do anything against them. It makes no sense. We actually support them, because it's really hard to get Arduino boards in Santiago de Chile, for whatever reason. So you see there is a difference, and there is always common sense, and then there is the law, and then all these things mixed together. So that's for the first question, which is about the copyright and copies and so on. The second question is about high-tech applications. And I'm really glad that one of the examples being asked is space, because we're in the situation right now when the European Space Agency is considering using off-the-shelf microcontroller boards, like Arduino, for example, to make tests on space of especially low orbit experiments, to make interesting tests. And I don't know if you're following the Arduino blog, but just this last week we were showing an experiment called PBT Gamers, which is an experiment made by a group of students from Luleå University in the north of Sweden, where they are experimenting with different ways of controlling the pressure, volume, and temperature of the fuel using rockets. And they use Arduino boards to control the whole thing, and they were making the test on the zero gravity experiment, checking things out to see whether things work properly and so on. So that's a real deal, It's a really cool thing. So basically, the off-the-shelf Arduino technology is strong enough to operate in space experiments. That's the message. There's of course this aspect with space experimentation, and it is weight, and every gram counts. So off-the-shelf Arduino boards are great for making CANSATs. They are great for making these experiments, but the issue is that they might be too big or too heavy for what you need, and you need to remove parts of them. And that's the next step, really. There's also companies, like for example, there is NanoSatisfy. It's another company from California that already many years ago they built this Arduino-based satellite that has the equivalent to 8 Arduino Unos on board. And then students can run tests in their lab, and then they can replicate the test in the satellite. So it's pretty cool because you can make a test of measuring temperature or air pressure or whatever in normal conditions, and then you can replicate it in microgravity and see what happens and how it behaves. Okay, so that was about that question.
Ready for the next one?
Oh yeah, totally.
All right. So.
By the way, we forgot to say why we're making this call. I just realized we're making this call because the Discord channel reached 500 users. Woo! Yeah. Forgot to say, our goal is to reach 10,000. Let's go for it. But that would be a great goal. Very big, crazy. Okay, sorry. Go with the next question.
All right. So the next one comes from Darkness V.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, what is the difference between Arduino and Genuino boards?
Okay, that's again a very interesting question. Typically, the Genuino boards, if you have a Genuino board, please stick to it because it's gonna be one of these collector pieces very soon. You know that we had a bit of a legal conflict in Arduino for a couple of years, and for a while, the original founders of Arduino, which is Massimo Bansi, my partner, Dave Mellis, also my partner Tomaigo, and myself, we were in a legal dispute against another guy that had managed to unlawfully get access to the Arduino trademark. And in order to avoid any kind of conflicts, and in order to be able to continue to work this developing and serving people with open source technologies, we invented a new brand. So Genuino and Arduino.cc are the same thing. Mm-hmm.
All right. Ready for the next one?
Totally.
Penguin does. He says, I'm completely new to this circuit boards and Arduino. I only know basic electronic parts such as indicators, resistors, and a few others. Does anyone have a good tutorial I can follow?
Woo, there is a lot of tutorials, and probably that's the issue, that there is a lot of tutorials when you're starting. What can I recommend? We typically, if you are on your own and you are in a remote location, we typically recommend getting the Arduino starter kit because it has a great book. And that book is telling you a story about components in a way, and it teaches you about how to relate software to hardware in a very easy way. So if you're on your own and you have like no basic understanding of electronics, that's a really great starting point. So it's the official Arduino. On the other hand, there is a lot of pretty good tutorials, and it depends on your localization. If you're looking for something in Spanish, for example, there's a couple of people talking Spanish that are making great tutorials. For example, programarfacil.com or Aprendiendo con Arduino, I think is the name. But if you're looking for people in English, I think Element 14 has also great tutorials. People from RS have also great tutorials. So you can find other communities online that have good tutorials that are made by community members. Finally, we're also launching at some point an online course that could also be a great starting point. So there is many alternatives, but I would recommend to look for a good YouTuber that has thousands of followers or tens of thousands of followers doing Arduino projects, because that's a guarantee that that person is actually trustworthy. Or something.
All right. All right, so he also asks, actually, okay. There's quite a bit of questions in here. I need to read the ones that are actual questions.
I mean, we also take like prizes like, hey, you're cool, but we don't take insults. We don't read those aloud. Also, from the helpers that are in the call, guys, if I mean, at any time, you're welcome to intervene. Actually, to this question on whether it's good tutorials, I mean, would you guys recommend anything interesting that you've seen around? Because this question can be answered by any of us. It's not just a question for me.
I don't think I have anything specific, but if you have any questions, just go through Discord and ask them.
All right, so we have a question from Valerio. He asks, what happened to the Arduino tray?
Okay, yeah, well, that's a very interesting story again. So for those of you that don't know, Arduino Tray was intended to be our first computer-like board. And we spent a lot of time working with it, and we make some beta boards, and we deliver them to people. And the problem was that the processor that we had been working with for over a year, we got to know that it was going to be discontinued. And more or less at the same time is when Intel came in with the idea of doing something together. So there were different factors coming together, and we decided that it was a better idea to maybe let it go, you know. Because sometimes if you're not having something in the open source world that you're ready to support properly, it's better to let it go. I have to say that if you guys are interested in the kind of things you could do with this, you should be aware that Maker family is going to have very interesting boards that are going to be more powerful than the Arduino tray. So I will just be following the further development. I mean, you have seen now the Vidor board, for example, that has an FPGA on board and can do fantastic things. There's going to be a lot of really good examples in there that will help you understand which are the kind of things you can do. But also we're going to come out with some other boards in the next year that are going to be a lot more powerful and a lot more for the value, definitely. Because it's also the other problem with these boards that it was going to be too expensive. And we realized that it didn't make any sense to bring out anything that was going to be too expensive for the purpose. So yeah. But I don't deny the possibility that at some point there will be a revamp of the tray with a different chip or called something else. Okay, but right now we have a very strong focus on the Maker family, which are a lot smaller, but some of them are going to be more powerful computing wise than the one that we have in the picture right now.
Speaking of the Vidor, when was the new block editor will be made available for us?
Great question. I cannot give you a date. As soon as possible. Our original goal was October, but you know, software is software, and the good news with software is that when it's ready, it's fantastic. The bad news is when it's not ready, you need to wait.
And there's no like, coming from a software developer, there's no set time that you can really be releasing it, because it's just, you have to punch out a lot of features, and it's quite hard.
So the way we're gonna go around it right now is that we're gonna offer you guys a lot of good examples, so that for some people that are really eager in getting started as soon as possible, they will not need the block language or visual language for Vidor. But the visual language for Vidor will be more useful for people that are not having the kind of expertise that any average developer is having. I think that the challenge for many developers that are used to normal software engineering is that they think in sequential programming, but when you think in programming for FPGAs, you have to think in parallel programming. So some blocks of code happen all at the same time, and that requires a bit of a different mindset. But I think that's a very interesting challenge to have, because suddenly things happen a lot faster, and you can do a lot more things. And I cannot tell you, because if I tell you, somebody will come and execute me tomorrow. But but there's a really funny example in the making right now on Vidor that will be announced by the Arduino on the Arduino normal channel very soon. So guys, stay tuned. I think you will understand about the potential of what you can do very, very quickly.
Just to notice, I have to head out in about 4 minutes here.
Okay.
There are no more questions.
Okay, that's great. So I don't know if you guys the ones that are connected have any kind of comments that you would like to make, I think what I would like to see, if we manage to make it happen, is more like local groups. So I would like this online community to actually help people to get together in the real physical world and do more things together. So that when we arrange Arduino Day 2019, many of you guys can get more presence and can get to be seen and recognized for what you're doing. So personally, I want to thank everybody in the helper channel and in the management channel of the Discord server for the work you're doing. I think it's tremendous, and I think we managed to put together a great group of people in a record time. So I hope that we'll get to continue to do great things together. And remember, please, and I will send this message to everybody because we're broadcasting this live. One of our main goals should be to make a more inclusive group of people interested in technology. So we have to figure out ways to be respecting other sensibilities and, you know, try to enroll people from all genders and age groups and races.
Be as unbiased as possible.
Yeah, that is very important. So if you detect any kind of behavior on the chat that is not respectful, you know, let's talk about it and let's figure out ways how we can make it work.
And you could also just ping anybody with like @moderator, and personally I'm on Discord every day and I'll immediately get the ping and be like, okay, so I need to go check this out.
Yeah. And I would say also that, you know, Discord is kind of like the first front right now. So it's like if people have like a question they need an answer for like right now, people are going to Discord, and it will grow more and more into that direction. If you have a question that can be digested like slowly, then it's a good idea to basically go to the Arduino forum, which is like the next level, which is but it's a different beast. You know, the Arduino forum is our next big battle. You know, it has over 580,000 registered users. Probably half of those users are active users, and but it works a lot more slow. It's more slow. It's like slower. It's like takes time to ask a question. It takes a day to get an answer and so on. At the same time, you have your own personalized discussion channel, so it's a different kind of thing. So we have to also remember that sometimes a question could just be redirected to the other more traditional channels. So that's everything from my side, guys. Again, I want to thank you, everybody, for helping out. And I remind you, helpers, that this week I will make sure that this special present is leaving Sweden for all of you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I hope mine doesn't leave Sweden.
Oh, yours will eventually. Yeah, you're right. Okay, I could bring yours by hand. No, I can't. I cannot promise I will go to Gothenburg anytime soon, but I would love to, though.
Yeah, you'll probably get it first.
Yeah, hope so.
Actually, yeah, Swedish postal service is kind of okay still. You know, 24 hours delivery, stuff like that.
Ooh, wish the US was like that.
Well, you have Amazon Prime. We don't have Amazon Prime.
No.
That's a good point. We get 2-day shipping.
Yeah, no, Sweden is really big, but very small. It's like very big in surface, but very small in population. So I don't think we'll ever get Amazon Prime here. You know, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna stop streaming so we can continue to talk. I will just stop streaming.